Recording in progress.
Guys ready?
You still got 10 seconds.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Would you join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Can I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Rao,
Here.
Councilman Rao,
Present.
Councilman Hunter,
Here.
Councilman LaVerie, Councilman Simons.
Present.
Okay. Are we in compliance with our open meeting laws?
Yes.
Public comment. Do we have any public comment related to any of the items on the agenda tonight? Nobody online? Okay. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
I'll second the motion and very happy we can get these minutes done.
You.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
But before we do that, I apologize. We moved for approval before I could say, we've got 2 sets out of the 3. We're missing, I know, I still have, the 19th is not in there. So we just have the 5th and the 28th. The 19th will be done by next meeting along with tonight's minutes.
The 5th's in here.
The 5th is in there and the 28th of April is in
Yeah,
there.
you sent me
May
those.
19th is not in there.
Or the
25th.
And then not today's.
or the mission, the meeting that we had for the budget.
That one is in, that's the one we had ready last time, but moved to today.
Okay,
That makes sense. Those are the 2 we're approving, is the budget meeting from April 28th and then the regular council meeting on May 5th. Those are the 2 that we should have.
Want to amend your motion?
yes, I'll amend that we have just the minutes of the 28th and the 5th to approve.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the minutes. I crossed it out, I can't read.
It'd be the minutes for April 28th and May 5th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. For discussion, update from Lincoln County Power District. Got Dane here tonight.
Thank you for having me tonight. I will try to give you the best update I can. So we have had a few things going on here in the city of Caliente. One of the main concerns, it seems like, is streetlights that we've heard about from Grant, and we've worked 2 different times on streetlights within the community with the materials that we had. And you'll hear the materials word several times throughout this report, as that seems to be a problem with, everything that we're doing is get enough materials to do jobs. We currently have several estimates that are out for services within the city of Caliente. One of those we have to go forward with, and again, we're just waiting on the final materials to come in. It was a 3-phase service that requires some specialized equipment that we had to get, but it was supposed to ship on the 23rd, and so we're expecting it soon where we can go forward with the 3-phase upgrade service. So one of the things that is good news, though, and I'm sure that you gentlemen have seen, is the funding through Senator Masto and Rosen's Act. The AMI metering for the city of Caliente was in the short list of projects to be sent through on the bill. So we're very hopeful. We also had a project on that Lincoln County Power did for some solar installation, but we're very optimistic that those things are going to happen soon. So hopefully the AMI system can be implemented in the city of Caliente. And then also, I can't remember the timeline that it was last time we gave a report, but the underground project that we've been working on behind the businesses, we've completed the phase 2 of that section, and phase 3, our timeline is this winter when we will be able to complete all of the backbone infrastructure through those business section, and then looking to go hopefully under the railroad if we can, to tie in with the rest of the circuit on the other side of the tracks. So Craig, you had asked me earlier about some, I know it's later on in the agenda, about some loan stuff, and I brought some documents down. I don't know if you wanted to go over that at this time, or you and I can discuss it at a later time, but.
Yeah, I mean, we can go over it later. I guess for that item later, I guess I'd be interested to know, are we off?
Well, do you want to do it later?
Why don't you hit it right now? real
I'll
quick?
stick around for that item if you'd like me to, so.
Okay, either way, I mean, if you want to get out of here, we can do it now. It's up to you.
that's okay. You're a good bunch of guys. I'll stick around with you for a minute, so. But, yeah, I apologize for the short list that I had bringing you down tonight. Oh, one other thing that I wanted to is the butcher block service out in the industrial section. And that's been, you know, a long time that we've been discussing that project and getting it ready to go. And we actually will start seeing some movement by our crews next week in rebuilding the line out there. We finally got some of the vaults and stuff that we're gonna install for the portion that is gonna go on to the services. And so we're finally seeing that material, and we're gonna start moving on that here pretty quick. I did wanna give that an update to you also, so. But I would be happy to take any questions from you guys, you know, about the service, or we always like to know how we're doing, if we're meeting your needs, you know, what we could do better, things like that, so.
I got a question on the butcher block thing, where, since that was just the last topic, so is that all services you guys and the city are putting in, not the business owner, correct?
So we have been in discussions, and you gentlemen can correct me if I'm wrong, because I kind of got brought in halfway on some of this stuff, but so the only service that's going in on this right now is the butcher block service, but we are setting up the infrastructure for future build out in the industrial section. But that will be the only meter there right now.
Okay, that answers my, so you're just putting a meter in there for them, it's not like no progress on their end, but.
Yeah, there's, so we have some electrical drawings from them on what their load is and have calculated what size transformer they need on stuff like that. But a lot of that will be up to them in the future on how fast we can move on that, so.
Go by there and it's like, dead zone.
So
Probably continue.
I've got an answer for you a little bit there, Joe. It's a materials issue again, but Mr. Bourne came in and paid the city to purchase the materials for the water and sewer stuff, and I've got the quotes out for that, waiting on the ability to fill those quotes, so.
I got a question. There's a pedestal behind or by the old fire hall behind this grocery store. Does that belong to you or the phone company?
Well, I'd have to look at it. I can't think of it by memory. An electrical meter pedestal?
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I can assure you it doesn't belong to them.
It doesn't belong to them. Okay, we had a complaint before that last raise about it would be in danger in that pedestal.
Well, there is not a pedestal, there's a transformer there.
No
On
transformer
that
on the
road, along
ground.
that road, just up the hill from that,
That's ours.
yeah. But it is electrical transformer.
Yes.
It's not like a telephone deal.
Okay,
Oh, is that what you're talking about?
yeah.
Yeah, it was some of the new stuff you guys put in for the service to the fire station.
To the old fire station?
Yeah.
That transformer was, yeah, it's servicing the old fire station right now.
I believe there's a junction box and a transformer box
That's
right there.
correct. And is the concern that it's right there as you come off the road on the hill? Was that the concern for it? Just
Right,
the
that's
location of it?
One of them cars, and one did come by there but missed it.
Thank goodness.
We were just wondering if there could be something put in there to,
Some pipe bollards or something like
like
that?
that to stop it.
Yeah, that can definitely be something we do, and I'll visit with you on that, Grant, and we can come up with a design. But we've done that before on some of our stuff just to protect it a little bit. So
Right.
I could see how that could be a vulnerable spot.
Okay, thank
The
you.
road. The one coming off the hill. Okay, any other questions for Dane? Okay, thank you for your report.
We are gonna have a question when we get to this electrical thing on this adder that's coming up.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about earlier.
We'll do it then, huh? Okay, thank you.
All right, discussion, list of projects for use of funds for the Lincoln County Regional Transportation. You got some deal on that?
Between our last meeting and now with preparing for Memorial Day
Okay, approve or deny use of debt service and special licensing funds for payoff of fire truck loan, Lincoln County Power District, utility power line, advancement loan, and line advancement loan. That's the one we need to talk to Dana.
Yeah, so what we talked about at our budget meeting was taking the funds that we have set aside in the debt service fund, utilizing those to pay off the fire truck, taking the remainder of that, and then a portion of our special licenses fund to pay off the remaining balance on that loan that we have with Lincoln County Power. Dan and I discussed in that meeting that on our debt service sheet in our budget, he has, that they've been tracking since the beginning of that loan, a balance of around 66,000 come the beginning of the next fiscal year in July. I went back and looked at our bills, tried to add back what I thought that principal payment would be for probably 2 more periods before we got there, and figured our balance would probably be somewhere around 70, mid 70,000 potentially, right now. I don't know if that jives with what you have, Dane, but that's kind of what I was looking at. And that, if that's the case, if it was around that number, then we'd be looking to take probably around 55,000 from the special revenue or special licenses fund to pay that off. Unless Dane tells me we owe him more, and then
Well-
then we're gonna fight.
So, I had some help, pulling up some of the information, on what the loan was about, and from what I understand, this is, from the Caliente substation that was done, quite a while ago. The upgrades to that is from my understanding on what this loan was. So, on our accounts, we show, and with the amortization schedule, a balance, let me get to this page here, of a little over 91,000. Now, I was informed that there is also another account that was held that has maybe somewhere in the $20,000 range that the city has access to, that was holding funding there, but we don't have access to that account, so we don't know what's in there. And I don't know if that was taken into account in your numbers, Craig.
It's another fund that we have, that we've set that money aside for, is that what you're saying?
That's what I was told, but,
I don't believe that we're factoring that in, that I know
Okay.
of.
okay.
So I might have to get with Dan and just hash out what they've got. Maybe if you have an amortization schedule that you're running off of and I can get a copy of it, I can just compare that to yours.
Absolutely. And I got a stack of folders put on my desk for this and was trying to go
I
through
don't
them.
want that. I just want the amortization
Yeah,
table.
I'll give it all to you. So that's the best number that I can give you guys at this time, but I didn't have a lot of time to dig into it today with a shorter notice. But I can definitely come back with some firm numbers at another time, and I'll keep in contact with you, Craig, on what that is, so that you guys will know also what it is.
Yeah, it should be, I mean, if we have your amortization table, it should be pretty slick, I would think, to be able to find out if we're off, why. And
Yeah.
If not, then, so. But I guess that, in that case, for this particular item, then I would say the safe bet is to say we have a balance at 91,000. We're gonna take, of the 43,000 and change, almost 44,000 that we have in our debt service fund, we would be utilizing 23 of it, so we'd have about 20,000 left, which would require us to put out about 71,000 from the special licenses fund in order to pay that debt off. If it turns out we owe less, great, we have more money left in that fund. If you want to go that route, that would probably leave us with about 120,000 in the special licenses fund, because I think we're at 190. So
And these two accounts were the highest interest rates as well, right?
the fire truck
Fire truck
isn't,
was.
but
That's the one.
But the loan with Lincoln County Power is, that's the highest one, yeah.
That's how
And
big.
then the others are pretty comparable, but we were just trying to get it off the books, get 2 of them off the books if we could, so. I don't know
Okay.
how you feel about, how you
This
feel
is all coming from marijuana money.
Yes, yes, the debt service fund is specifically set up for the payments that we're receiving monthly, and we're taking 40% of those payments and putting them into that fund. The special licenses was a one-time fee, and that fund has been set aside for whatever purpose you want.
We had talked to Dan that we could use that licensing fee money for that.
Well, I think we need to see what we actually have to pay and what comes out before we make a decision on what we're doing here with that.
Okay,
So,
I'd like to see, I'd like to see at least, I know we're set on the fire truck,
yeah,
but at least the power company one.
Yep.
okay.
Get on the same page and, yeah.
Can we agree to pay on the fire truck now and then come back to the power district?
Yeah, the only question I'm gonna have for Dan on that is, I think we tried to squeeze it out of the budget for next fiscal year because we were gonna pay it off this fiscal year. I think if we get the answers and approve it, on the 9th or on the 16th, then we can get that payment out in this current fiscal year anyway, so that should be fine. Either way, we can table the whole thing, or,
Yeah.
it's probably easier that way,
I think
And
it's easier
then-
for you, yeah.
and
I
then
mean,
push it
as
to
far
the
as
next. Yeah, we can just move the whole thing.
To get Dane on
But
the
you're
same
gonna be mad
page.
if they repossess the fire truck.
They better not, we're still making payments.
All right, we'll, table this until our good numbers then.
Thanks, Dane.
All right, thank you. All right, item D, approve or deny temporary liquor license for the beautification committees to serve alcohol at the Tacos and Rita's event on July 4th.
So I put this on the agenda for, since last meeting, and they usually do that. They go to the Shamrock Bar and Pub to get the temporary liquor license. It is on the agenda. The owner has granted permission, but she has not come in to file for the liquor license yet. So I talked to Franklin and Craig before the meeting and thought that maybe we can make the motion to approve the temporary liquor license pending their application approval at the Rose Park. To make it specific, it's in the Rose Park, it's not gonna be anywhere else. And they have done it in the past.
Is that a motion?
That is my motion, sir, yes.
I'll second it.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second to approve the transfer the liquor license temporarily to the Rose Park during the Tacos and Rita event on July 4th for the beautification committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, item E, approve or deny additional electric rate increase in conjunction with the 0.5148 kilowatt hour increase approved on May 5th, effective July 1st.
So this one we put back on the agenda post our final budget meeting, a public hearing and budget meeting. Just for the fact that I believe the understanding was, we now understand a little better as to what that looks like and what that means for our budget and for the city of Caliente. So that's why it's back on, and I guess it's up for discussion.
I got a question. I've thought long and hard about this one, and I know it's something that we gotta do, but I've spoke with a few residents that I trust throughout the city, and I know no one likes this, but we keep raising rates, but traditionally, like even where I work, budgets get cut. Percentages have to, sometimes things gotta get cut, and I asked this question to Dan McCarter that night. I wanted to bring my book and I forgot it in my other truck, but, electrical, there's a 30% or like 30 grand services and supplies. Then water, he upped it 40,000 services and supplies. And no one really knows what those services and supplies are. So my question would be, like, contrary to the thing, I'd even talk like, man, maybe we get a consultant in. But maybe it's something you can get time to do in the near
Ask me to
future.
do my
because
job,
I
Joe?
would think there's a lot of things that could be cut, and I know Grant probably don't like that either, but where is all this money going? I don't think anybody's taking the money, anything like that, but like what is being wasted and spent that we don't even know is being spent? That's because the night you went over the budget, I would, again, I don't have my book with me, but there's probably $120,000 that are services and supplies that, and I know some of that's needed, but that's not gonna fix this problem, but I'd kind of tie it together. And I even had a thought, I was like, maybe we contract a little consultant, someone to come in here and help dig through it, but
Well,
that's a lot of money that no one even knows what it is. I know there's receipts, I know there's tracking, but it's like, where can we clip that down a little bit?
I think the primary thing that we're gonna have to go through and before the end of this month, we're gonna go through all of it. Once I have every entry entered in for this fiscal year, because we've got to make any augmentations to our current year budget to make sure that we're not out of compliance with any of those. So that's a process we're gonna go through, and we'll be able to look at the detail ledger and see every transaction that is run through the software. I mean, anything that's being recorded. I mean, the question is there waste? Is there excess money leaving? Maybe, but I mean, I think that, I mean, Dan obviously is only going off of what he has.
Yeah, I know.
Which is, here's our actuals from the last year, and they were recorded. And if inflation's running high and costs of everything is going up, it's reasonable to expect that cutting costs is only gonna go so far. The difference between the rate increase that we approved and the rate increase that we suggested was about $70,000. And so, what was the number that you said was on, that you were looking at for service and supplies?
I wanna say it was, there's like 4 different accounts within the electrical account there were total like 40, and then when you go to the water, there's like 3 or
Yeah.
4, and there's another 30, and then.
So even in electrical, let's just say we got rid of all of
He
it.
even said, he's like, well, there's no, I don't know why, Jerry put it in there, there's all these
Yeah.
different accounts, and I
They
understand.
wanted-
I'm talking like shop rags, PM, tire wear and tear,
Sure. I mean,
equipment breaking, everything, like where, maybe that's some things I don't know how we do it, but monitor it better and see what those expenses are. And
well, I think, I mean,
might have to be
I do think
5%
that
cut
is,
to get some of that.
that is the job that we're tasked with over, City Hall and Public Works.
Yeah.
Is kind of like we had that discussion last meeting, Franklin mentioned it. You give us a budget, do your job, and do it within that budget. And so, yeah, I mean, there's potentially the opportunity to tighten the screws, but I was just gonna say that even if we eliminated all that, 40,000, we're still gonna be in the whole 30.
Yeah.
With the rate that we.
No, I understand why we have to do this, it's just.
So, anyway, but I'm with you, and obviously that, I take that personally because I do want to make sure we're not wasting any money.
Well, I think what I've, on this money that you're talking about, I think we have a contract with the county, to do the electrical work, but we have to buy the supplies and stuff that they use.
Correct.
So I think that's where that money's being spent.
No, and I'm not disagreeing with that, but as you
Right.
look through it, then it's like, you move to the water, and then there again, there's 4 different accounts, like, there's no, I've been going through 9 budgets for the last 2 months, and everything is coded out, like, to shop rags, you know what I mean, and that's where it's kind of confusing to me when I look at them, like, well, what actually is it within that thing that?
That's what we eliminated a couple of those accounts at our last meeting. But yeah, we combined them so that they're all together.
Yeah.
Jerry had those separated out, so he knew exactly in his budget where those were being used. I mean, the budget was like 100,000, but then he had it busted down underneath that.
Right.
On what he would spend what that actually money was being spent on. And that's where all those extra lines came from, to be more specific on what he was actually doing.
And that
So-
detail can be great if
Yeah.
we use it. But, like Grant said last meeting, there's gotta be a map as to how that was intended to be used, or he doesn't have a clue where it was meant to go. That may be something that, now that we've combined them, Grant can look into it on his own, and say, this is what I would like to see broken out, and then we can move that direction. And if you ever decide to leave, you will leave a roadmap. So, anyway.
Definitely needs to have some stuff cleaned up in it.
Yeah. And there may not be any way to cut it any either, you know?
Well-
I'm not saying, I wasn't stating that either. It's just kind of like, man, where.
I'm hoping that that's true only because it would be sad to raise rates and then feel like, man, we could have just cut costs that we were.
And I'll go on record to say, I'm with you. I don't think what I brought up
Yeah.
does that. It just, to me, kind of ties in conjunction with, because we've been going over the budget and the electrical rates. I mean, it was in each one, trash, sewer, there was all them up
think-
accounts in it. It's kind of, I know the electrical's probably the costliest, but I can tell you right now,
That's the only one we're talking about right now.
how
is
much
electric.
fuel is being wasted. Now, I know we changed what we're doing, but in the past with the trash truck and the gator and then another truck following it makes, sorry, Grant, no sense to me. I just watched trash go down today in the city and it's like, then you see our operation and it's like, that right there is a huge, and especially with the cost of gas. I know that we're talking peanuts, but that all adds up. And I know we changed how we're doing trash now anyways, but that's where I'm saying like how, like, you know, we're tightening the wrenches, we're raising the rates, but are we digging into that enough to see
Well,
what
and-
needs to
and-
be cut down on?
Maybe just my last comment there is, and I understand where citizens are coming from. They feel like we're raising every rate known to man, and that is hard to swallow. You made the reason I'm saying this is you made the comment that they're looking at it and saying, man, they're raising rates all the time. This is the first time we've raised rates in a long time that I'm aware of, save garbage a couple of years ago maybe. But we've been kicking the can down the road for years on a lot of the rate increases. So I don't know that, I understand that it's hard right now because we're coming out with all of them. That's just a catch up for all the rates we haven't raised for years. That's just my feeling. I mean, I wasn't here for
And
that.
no, I don't know if I said, people said they're raising them all the time either. I might have misunderstood me or misspoken because that's not what I was.
Okay,
I'm kind of, look at this, we're raising the city's rates, we're raising people's rates. And then looking at that budget,
where can we cut costs?
there's a lot of money that I've seen, a lot of money in there. That I understand a lot of that is probably being spent correctly and everything
No
else,
worries.
but at the same time, it's like, man, we're raising everything. I've never once heard us, hey, let's cut this cost, sorry. And again, I know it's Grant's Public Works, and you probably don't like to hear this, but hey, Grant, we're gonna have to take a 8% cut to your operating costs.
Well, I can say I'm
And
down
that,
a
and
guy
maybe
right
you
now.
can't, and maybe you
that-
can't work within that, I don't know, I'm just saying something. I just saying, looking at that budget, and me including, like approving it, is like, maybe for the next cycle is kind of looking at like, okay, where can we, and that's where I would expect you now, like versus us hiring like maybe a little contracted temporary professional to come in and like kind of look at that. I would think within the next year, confidently, like maybe you can start digging into that.
And I would say sooner than that. I mean, we're at the end of this fiscal year that I came into in the middle of. And by the time we start the next fiscal year, we're gonna have, I mean, there may still be some outliers, but we're gonna have all of that buttoned down to where on a monthly basis, the financial reports and detail ledger that I give to you should have every transaction that we've had and recorded. You should be able to go through it and say, what is this $10,000? And if there's no good answer, then that's probably the answer to where some of that money's going. But that's what needs to happen. I have to provide a financial statement for you to look at and some explanation, and there has to be questions about what those costs are. And if we have that on a regular basis, then we'll all be on the same page as to how much it costs to run the city.
Yeah, and then lastly, like I say, I'm not saying that anybody's, maybe there's nothing in there at all and there's no way to cut it. So I like where you're going with that, so.
I don't know what that means for us now, but I think that's all good discussion, all valid point.
Any other comments on this? Okay, with the raise that we put into it last time, how much more do we have to raise this up to make us,
So
where we're soluble?
percentage increase was like 4.48, I think. And so we were looking at 10%. So we'd be looking at another 5.2%. That would be the other, roughly $70,000 that we cut out. So if there's, if the hope is that we're gonna be able to tighten the screws and reduce operating costs in the coming fiscal year, then I could understand an argument to not raise them the 10% combined. If we're thinking there's no way we're gonna be at cost or above in the coming year, then then in order to make that work, we would have to be at a combined 10% rate increase from where we were before to now, for the new fiscal year, in my opinion, but based on what I see.
And the things that we talked about was the 6% rate increase and the 2%, and it was 2 point and change percent in our contract that's been year over year that we haven't addressed at all. And I think we're in year 2, looking at year 3 coming, that's gonna raise, and then wages as well for when my guys are working on electrical. So we're beyond that 4.5% already.
Yeah, and depending on how you combine that, it's
Yeah.
not, it doesn't quite you just don't stack them up on percentage, but, that's where we were looking at that when we came up with the 10%. We were looking at those numbers. So, like I said, unless we think we're gonna spend less money in the coming year, which would be great.
If AMI comes online, we will spend less in wages.
But we're looking at,
After it comes online,
still looking down the road.
But that's
Probably a
probably
couple
not
years
even in next
before that
fiscal
happens.
year, even if we wanna do it.
Part-time, temporary meter reader, retired person.
I told Grant,
Down, read the meters, simple solution.
we could.
Bucks an hour. 20 hours a week. Could have been done probably 4 years, 5 years ago. Just saying,
Yeah,
hey, who am I?
no, it's an option, right?
I don't know how to operate.
That's
I
definitely
don't
an
manage
option.
things, so I don't know.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's a good thing to consider.
Let's do however much $100,000 we got put in to keep the meters going. Good idea.
Okay. What is your recommendation on this, budgetary wise? What do you think we need to do?
Well, I think I would still stick with the 10% combined rate increase, which would be another 5.2% roughly. And if we do that, ultimately what we were trying to accomplish was to get each of the
Operating
utility funds to function as they were intended, which is as their own business. They produce revenue, they pay for all their costs, and at the end of the day, they're not below zero. And we increased the other rates in order to try to avert that, so that they're not borrowing from the electrical fund. And now we're trying to get the electrical fund up so that it too can function with all of its costs on its own without bleeding money, right? It's because there's a fund balance, we could operate in the hole every year for a period of time, but we're just cutting into the end of year balance in that fund every year until some point there won't be any, and then we're in worse shape. And we also discussed the fact that most of this is not factoring in any sort of planning for future capital outlay. We do have some funds that are doing that, but whether that's sufficient, it's not factored into these increases. So my recommendation, just on the sheer cash flow level, to try to get us cash flow positive, would be to be around 10%.
That's on top of the 4.25, so like a 6%.
5.2% roughly.
2%.
Which was what we were originally gonna.
Yeah, we were looking at 10% combined.
That was the recommendations from our auditor, right?
Yeah.
Any other discussions?
I made the motion for the last utility raise, what, two meetings ago? So I'm not gonna make this one.
Again, I'm in argument of budgetary things. I don't think what I was talking about would change it. But I do think it'd help the city in the long run, so. I was with Tommy's last suggestion when we first did this, so I'll make the motion that there's no other option, so I'll make the motion that we increase it by 5.2%.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to raise the electrical rates 5.2% to bring them up so we can
Operate
at least break even. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, item F, approve or deny room tax rate increase.
I had that put on the agenda. I see we have Jan Cole on the line. She gave me a call last night, and I tried to explain to her that the room tax committee was put on by the city council years ago when your grandfather was on the committee. And they were put on there as an advisory to the city council, like the planning commission is. They can make recommendations, but the city council doesn't. She wanted to know how come they weren't informed of the raise. The room tax committee was put on there to make recommendations on the distributing of this money, not how it comes about. So I just wanted to let the council know that.
I'll speak on that real quick too. So I pulled it up. And I honestly was pretty kind of fresh on these because I got to pull room rates for my travel. And we're at 11, but like an average is 12.5. I mean, a lot of towns are 14, bigger cities. Some of them have more money. But I personally don't think it would hurt any kind of tourism coming here. It's only going to help the city by raising that rate up. And this weekend, I do think this is something that needs to be addressed too. A friend of mine was putting on an event a year back and wanted money, and I can't remember if we gave it to him. I know I denied it because on his flyer it clearly stated camping, else motocross track, wherever. And so the softball tournament, I know like you can't police this, the cops can't police this, but there were probably 10, 12 trailers parked in the park, around the park, different things. And I would think whoever is putting on that event, moving forward, maybe we educate them a little bit and then they educate the people at least. I wouldn't expect them to get in a big altercation either. At least maybe like, hey, like we're getting money for this event due to this. We'd really prefer, and honestly, it's against the law to camp in the park, but anyways, I think the promoter needs to promote better at putting those in there. And I see Susan here, I haven't talked a word to her about it, but we're losing money at the same event that these people are putting on, so I just wanted to hit that. It happens with the races, it happens everywhere, and I know, you can't just police it. I've talked to people about it in the past, like, I think even Tommy did when that motorhome was down there forever, but a couple of years ago, but I think we need to make the promoter promote that a little bit better.
Well,
I'm pulling their trailers into our trailer parks.
Were you full up over the weekend?
she was, yeah.
I
I was,
I talked to these people, they were putting their trailers around the park, and I had them go over and put in that parking lot.
Yeah.
Rather than be on the street.
I figured someone did, and I didn't know, but.
Agua wasn't full?
cool. I had looked for rooms about a month and a half ago for a family that I had coming into town. Everything was sold out. We don't have the Hot Springs Motel. We haven't had the Hot Springs Motel in a couple of years, so that kind of hurts us a little bit. But Young's RV was booked, every other hotel was booked, so that was an issue. And as far as the room tax increase, I believe it is a pass-on, tax that most cities do. But I'd also like to hear from some of the innkeepers and whatnot too, as far as how that affects your bottom line, so.
Thanks. Well, and that's what I was hoping to come.
Up here, thanks.
Yes, sorry. Ultimately, in some regards, it will not impact my guests, most likely. It would be fine for me to increase my rates, for some. However, the majority of my guests now are full-time retirees. That is who fills me up probably 95% of the year. People who are retired, who full-time RV and move from campground to campground. These big weekends no longer benefit me because I'm full with these others the rest of the time. They, however, are on a fixed income, as well as a lot of the people that I house locally who can't, there is no housing. I have at least 5 BLM employees who live with me because they have no other place to live, because there's no rentals and there's no houses to buy. All of these people, it could potentially affect them. I don't want to lose my full-time people. They're a lot, I make less money on them. We make less, I pay less to the city on them. However, they're consistent, they're steady, they're there. They don't falter if the race gets canceled or if it gets changed or if COVID happens and So for me, it could affect that type of my customer. My nightly traffic, probably not as much. I could charge those guys, especially if I was to open it up for Memorial Day weekend or Snore Race, I could probably charge what I wanted. So I only have, out of my 52 spots, 8 that I'm renting out on a nightly basis, taking nightly reservations for. Everything else is full-time snowbirds who I've talked with a lot, who are stopping and not traveling like they used to because of gas prices. They're not going to campground to campground to campground. They're sticking put somewhere. So I want them to get stuck put with me and not go somewhere else because my prices are more.
Susan, can I ask you a question about
Yeah.
that? So for the room tax, right, if it's over 30 days, you're really only paying a flat fee for them.
Right. Yes.
So even if we did increase it on your long-term stays, that shouldn't change anything hypothetically, right? Unless we were to up the $12
Right,
flat
unless we
fee.
change that. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, that'll affect other entities differently, but for you, it would
Which
really
that-
only affect the 8 spots.
And we've had this conversation. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Anyway, that,
On the flat fee.
the
for-
28-day rental.
I don't know, statute just talks about anything less than
Yeah.
30 days. I can't remember what.
Susan, have you talked to Nolan at all, or Jerry?
Yes, so he called me last night because he's out of town and he said, you got to go represent me because I'm not there. For him, he's had all kinds of increases. He's had increases in shipping and supplies and the things that he has to get. So for him, it is far more impactful. And that was his argument to me, is that I'm already, and two, for me as well, even with my full-timers, if we're now increasing garbage and power and now room tax on all of our guests, that's quite a bit of an increase that we're now gonna have to do like one big jump to cover all of those costs now. So for him, he was more concerned about the impact it would have for his rates. And to speak on Joe's for a minute, because I looked up the counties too, and Joe's not wrong. Most on average are about 12%, but that's in the bigger cities. If you look up the small counties, like I looked up all this, and we just went through this because I'm on the room tax board for the county, it averages like 6%. So where we're at is somewhere in a happy medium between the two of those already. The big counties, the big cities, Washoe, Carson, Clark, they're in the 12 to 14, and all the smaller ones that I looked up are really in the 6 to 8 range percentage-wise. So at 11, I feel like we are already at a good happy medium. And anyway, and if we need the funds, okay, but so we're raising power and we're raising room tax, we need to do both, Yeah,
and ideally, yes, only from a budget standpoint, yes, because we're looking at each of those funds individually and they have to operate on their own.
Right.
And then the general fund is what benefits from the room tax fund, and the general fund also has problems. So that's why we're looking at room tax.
One other thing that Nolan and I had talked about yesterday, and that's just he and I from this advisory board, because we're both on it, but we have a balance, I mean, a pretty hefty balance as of right now in that room tax board. If we have some substantial debts, let's just use that balance, pay them off. It's a one-time chunk out of room tax and not this continual, taking from the room tax that we're using. Let's just pay off some of that debt. That puts us in a better place moving forward, and we don't have to raise our rates. We can just use our surplus currently.
And unfortunately, that's why we're looking at this also, is because in this budget meeting that we've had, or our final budget, we are budgeting to move $120,000 out of room tax.
Yeah.
For the general fund and parks. So there really isn't any money in there.
Right, which is hard to swallow too, because, with the county, you can't use that room tax money for anything but tourism. The city of Caliani has taken the leniency to use all of it but 1% for tourism, which, is not what it's intended for, but here we are, it is what it is. But I still think
Let's
it's.
do senior prize night in Alamo still? Do
I
they still do senior prize night in Alamo?
don't know. Yeah.
20,000 of that
Look into that.
on our match with the county for the bicycle trail.
Yeah,
We use a big portion of it to maintain our parks, which has the big baseball tournaments
Right.
that come in that fills the motels.
and I'm not arguing. I don't, at this point, I stay busy. If the tourism events, I was full over Snore Race without not one single racer. I was full over Memorial Day weekend without one single Memorial Day attendee. So I am full. So those big events, I feel like we don't really have the infrastructure to bring all these people all at once, because they are camping at the park. And like Joe said, I think that maybe we could police that in some way. I feel like if you're camping at the city park, you should pay a fee. Like, there should be a sign, there should be a drop box. Like, if they're utilizing the city parking, they should pay a fee.
Well, it is illegal too, like there's signs posted, but, and I'm glad you answered that, because I didn't check to see if you were full or anything. That'd be my big thing too, and I
Yeah.
agree with you, like, maybe we have to charge something.
Right, or even up at the industrial park, say, this is where you go, and this is the fee that either, like with Snore, they all were over there, Snore collects that fee, then it's no work on us. They're collecting that fee to all those trailers that are camped within city limits. That raises some revenue that I wouldn't, or none of the motels can give to the city because they're just camping for free. But they're filling up the trash cans and they're, so like, they should pay to be camping within city limits as far as I'm concerned. And I feel like the events can police that. Snore should be charging it, and the city says, okay, you can host Snore, but each one of those trailers that's parked within city limits pays $20.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of what I was saying too, because we can't, I know the cops just don't have time to go there.
Right.
And,
Right.
Steve, I know you went and talked to him, and that works too, but
Normally-
the promoter needs to promote harder on that as well.
Yes.
Normally, this room tax wouldn't affect any of our residents,
Right.
only the tourists coming in or the people passing through.
Right.
In your condition where you have some that stays longer, it might change, but normally it should not affect any of our residents.
And it's still, like we talked about, it shouldn't affect the residents that are living full-time there, because the room tax applies, that 11% only
The nightly.
applies to the nightly rate.
I do, Susan, you may disagree with me too, like, and I understand Nolan's point 100%, but the bulk of tourism in this county stays, I argue this all the time, like, I just I voted no on the trail down here, but, I think we're kind of monopolized down here with tourism. A couple people stay in the Overland or something, and I know there's a few Airbnbs, but I do think we have the monopoly on, if we raised it, like in Nolan's case and Sean and Tammy's, still are gonna probably have to stay there.
Yeah, potentially.
And I guess the other piece to that, and I agree with Nolan, it's not fun. All of his costs are going up. We're fighting that same battle.
Sure.
All of our costs are going up too. It's not isolated to any one particular industry or person or business. That's why we're here,
Yep.
same reason. But you also, when you and I spoke the other day, you also brought up some discussion. I don't know if you wanted to bring it up here or not, but, you know, people have opinions about the pool and the cost that we're spending on the pool. And we've heard from a few people that say, run that pool no matter what. But I've heard from other people in the last few weeks that say, I don't care what you do, don't run that pool. Because I'd rather not run the pool than see all these other increases.
Right. Yeah, because
Their argument too.
yes,
You know?
yeah, if with Joe's argument, and if it's not operating and within its cost, we shouldn't be doing it. You know, if it's going in the hole, we shouldn't be doing it. We don't have the money to do it, and people can like that, or they can either have a swimming pool or they can have their power go up. They can choose.
And right now, we're in a place where both are happening.
Yeah.
But not running the pool obviously sets off a lot of the costs that, I mean, we're talking a $30,000 hole,
Yeah.
you know, annually.
I just think there's a lot of, again, could we, depending on the percentage, sure. Do I think it'll have an impact with all these other increases? Potentially. With gas price going up, I mean, travel is a luxury. People may not travel with the cat. I mean, I'm already hearing it from my guests that we'll just have to cut back if gas continues to raise. Now, if rates on the other stuff raises too, it could cut it all back. But maybe not, maybe not. Maybe they won't care at all and it won't matter, you know?
What I heard is you want room tax for all your long-term stuff too. That's what I heard. So I'll work on that one.
Thanks. I just think we could be more proactive like this, of looking at all the areas in which we can, I mean, even just the other thought that I have, like, it should impact all business owners too. I feel like there's just a few of us that get impacted every single time with the rates. There's other businesses that operate that don't pay any fees to the city. Are there ways in which we could tax them, or, you know, to help with all of these things, or even just like our business licenses? And I'm speaking for myself personally, but I think it was like $100 and something. We could raise I mean, that's one fee a year that we could raise somewhat in our, what we have to pay to get a business license, and that brings in some revenue. And that's a small thing, but all of these little things, if we're just thinking of other ideas, I think there's ways in which we can cut back in costs and earn money in other ways too.
Internally, in these little quarters, we have discussed business license fees and some of the challenges that we've had in the past there too, so.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure there's
all
the
of
things.
that is valuable and I think fair to discuss.
Anyway.
I got a question. Have you ever considered running for city council?
Well, Dylan Frainer told me to run for county commissioner, and I was like, no, thanks. But I will be, since I'm here and in front of the microphone, I've always been like, let me just shrink away all of this stuff. Like, I don't want to deal with it. I just want to step back. I don't want to, now I'm like, well, maybe I just need to be more proactive. So that's why I'm here.
Yep.
Be more
agreed.
involved. And sometimes I'm like, Susan, don't talk so much, but I'm like, maybe I just need to talk and it's fine.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I agree with Councilman Rao that it doesn't affect the citizens, but I think it affects the business owners at this point. So my recommendation is we just wait and see.
Mr. Mayor, this
Yeah.
is John Houston. Might
Yes.
I have something to say?
John, I was talking. Can you let me finish first, sir? John?
Surely. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll let you go in a minute, but I was just going to say at this point, my recommendation was just to let's give it another 5 or 6 months, be more proactive and not recommend an increase at this time, but I'm not making a motion yet. That's just my 2 cents. Go ahead, John.
Well, I would second your 2 cents. You know, I didn't make a comment with regard to the electrical rate increase because a 5.2% increase was not stated in the agenda.
Yeah.
And likewise, I did not make a comment at the beginning of the meeting with regard to a potential room tax rate increase because none is stated in the agenda. So it's very, very difficult to comment and have a position when input was not solicited either through the room tax board, and I understand this is a council issue and not a room tax board issue, but it was not also solicited with regard to all of the hospitality providers in Caliente. So I would agree very much that this should be put off for a period of time and some thought put into this. If the Caliente hospitality venues were in the county, it would be 8%. And I understand Caliente's got some costs and some challenges. And I understand this comment with regard to looking in every nook and cranny, including business license increases and increases in this and that and the rest of it. I'm not sure. Doesn't seem like nationally we're in a mood to cut costs in this country. But there's only so much that the taxpayers can bear. And you can look at a room tax as a pass-through. And some of that is true. But there's also resistance. There's resistance. If you've ever rented a room in Las Vegas or someplace and you were quoted $150 a night or some silly thing, and they present the bill at $200 to you, then you understand what I'm saying, and you continue to progress in that direction. So that's my comment. If you're going to consider rate increases, tell people in the agenda the rate increase that you're proposing. But I do agree.
Well, I think, Craig, you just put it on there, right? You didn't have a,
Councilman, that this thing ought to be kicked down the road for 5-6 months at least. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Craig, you'd put it on the agenda with no actual number, but you'd put it on there just as us to discuss it.
It doesn't
Maybe,
need to be there, put on an exact number. That's what the council is for. is to
That's what I was getting
discuss
at,
what
yeah.
that number is.
If the council has read or seen the agenda for the room tax board meeting, which is tomorrow, as there's a request on there from the county, for the Lincoln County Fair, they're asking for $10,000 from our room tax. Of course,
Entertainment, though.
the
Entertainment.
At present, we don't have that available. We might by the time the rodeo comes to town and the county fair is, but as of present, we don't have that available. That's, our funds are pretty much depleted.
I would think though too, on the fair, if they get a lower amount, it should be okay with that once we do it, but I agree with what you're saying. There's.
Can I speak to that just briefly? Nolan and I have had this conversation. I've not once seen a rodeo customer in all of the years that I've been here, 8 now, not one. So just, and Nolan's seen very few. So just speaking to that, most of them stay up there at the fair and rodeo grounds or whatever, but that's my 2 cents.
And I'm in the middle of trying to understand for sure whether or not the 1% statutorily mandated room tax requires us to contribute 5/8 of that 1% to the Lincoln County Fair Board. It's my interpretation of the statute that we do have to do that, in which case, even though we haven't been making those payments in the past, I think we've contributed around $5,000 every year to the fair. If we start contributing that percentage, 5/8 of 1% of our room tax, then we would be contributing to it, and probably at the rate that makes sense to the city of Caliente. That's not gonna be popular with the county, but, I mean.
County room tax, I would, not that it matters, but theirs is low. I got it right here. Oh, probably their budget too. Do they even have, the county the county might not even have a budget, might be a state budget.
Yeah, because I served on that board for the last several years, I just finished serving on that board. They just raised theirs to 8. They were at 6, but they raised it to 8, and they have a pretty substantial revolving budget for their room tax, actually, so.
They were
Yeah.
at 5.
What percent is ours?
11. 11.
And there's just other things, like you were saying earlier, different cities, like I know in the city of Mesquite, they're about 9.5%, but then 1% of that, 9.5 goes to the city of Mesquite, but then 1.5 goes to Clark County. So it's a different, you know what I mean?
For their part, Clark.
Yeah, it seems lower,
That's what we
but,
should be.
but, you know, I mean,
It's all
it
Lincoln
depends
and
on what
Clark.
city.
So I think they're getting kickbacks from Clark. They need to just expand.
Any other discussion on this?
Just out of curiosity, Susan, is there a rate that you've, I mean, I know you don't want to raise your own rates, but is there something that would be palatable to, in your discussions with others, that would feel like it would make sense still to you guys, but that wouldn't be overburdensome, I guess, in a sense?
And I'm unique in this situation where you would have to ask the motel owners where they have been more impacted by supplies where I have not. I will be impacted by these other rate increases, of course, because I operate big RVs and a 10% utility increase is significant for me to then turn around and charge them. So yeah. Have you even thought of a rate number? I mean, I don't think we should go any higher than what the highest one is, which is Clark County, which I think they're 14 when I looked it up. I don't think we should go any higher than that.
I was thinking 1% increase.
To 12.
I was thinking 13, but either way, so.
Would the 1% even make a difference? I don't.
It's probably, if I look at the 1% that we are paying out monthly, it would probably be around $1,000 a month.
I was just gonna
Give
say,
or
that's,
take.
that's close to a 10% increase, so to speak. When you're at 11%, you raise it by 1%. You're
Right.
just short of a 10% increase.
Yep.
So.
Thank you. I mean, it's something, but it's incremental in all of these. I mean, we were talking about, and I know it's kilowatt hours, so it's a little bit different, but I mean, we raised the electric rate by 0.5 cent. But that makes a difference. I mean, it makes a big difference. So, yeah, I mean, every little bit is gonna help us when we're looking at trying to somehow meet in the middle of rate increases to increase revenue and cost reduction, if at all possible. Every piece is gonna be important in that conversation when we're driving a very tight budget.
Wells, Nevada is 16%.
Because they know they got you. They know, you can't go anywhere else.
We're no different. Where are you gonna go here? You're no different. That's one, I guess I'd argue that point, that Shady and Rainbow is a monopoly to the railroad, and every UTV coming into this place, they're not going up to Lincoln County. Lincoln County's getting people that come over from Utah and stay in the overland, and that's why they probably don't have that big of a budget. And some Airbnbs, but if you're coming to Cal-Any, railroad, firefighters all summer long, all these UTVers. I know it may not flow into the trailer parks as much, or the RV parks, sorry, but I feel it's a monopoly right across the street and down the street and Patty's Motel.
I think we've,
I've never stayed in Pioche in my life. I don't even, I
I'd
know
say-
people that do, I don't know people that would.
I say we table the item and see how their room tax meeting goes and hear from some of the people that are the owners and in the trenches, and I'm not saying I just say we table it for, and maybe it's the next meeting, maybe it's after what they come up with as a group. That's my opinion.
Remember though, they don't set the rate.
Yeah, I know, but let's hear from them, see if they could live with that. Let's hear from them, see if they could live with the 1% or 2%, or see how they.
Okay, what's the council's pleasure here?
I mean, I don't mind Sean's idea either of holding off for a little bit, but I don't know really what that's gonna do to bring to the table or anything else. Yeah, all right, I could do that. I can bear with that. I don't know if the information is gonna change at all.
True, yeah.
How Tom feels about it.
Damon?
I'm good. I can barely talk, so I'm not saying much.
That's why you're being so quiet.
Okay, so do we want to table this?
I would say table it just on the fact that, I guess, Sean, to your point, we come up with an actual rate.
Put this on the next agenda then? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, let's put it on the next agenda, but that way we can hear from some of these owners too, and like I said, they don't set the rate, but let's talk with them, let's get their feelings on what rate they'd be comfortable with, if at all. I mean, yeah, the citizens are getting the 4%, they're getting 1%, but they have supplies they have, I mean, I just don't think we should make the decision tonight either way, whether to approve it or deny it. Let's get a solid number, let's get a solid percentage-wise.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. What's that?
About a July meeting, the last July meeting.
Want to put it in on the.
That way it gives
second
time
week of
to
July?
meet, because it's hard to sometimes to bring a room tax together. They all do things.
So yeah, they're.
Yeah, but tomorrow's not, yeah. Maybe the last.
Our new budget starts in July, though.
Yeah. We can talk with them before the 16th. Next meeting. June 16th is the next meeting, right?
Okay,
Wanna
it
put it
looks
on the
like the
next-
majority of the council would like to put this on the agenda for the 16th. So we'll table it till then and we'll bring it back up.
Come join us then too. Okay.
Get Nolan over here. All right, update concerning ongoing grants administration, city clerk's report, and let's go ahead and put both of your reports together, so.
Okay, well, that'll be easy. I talked to Linda. There's not really much to update on CDBG. She's still in the process of working with SHPO on getting what they need done. And then as far as City Hall goes, we had an employee leave City Hall, so we've decided for now, again, kind of in line with all these discussions, I told Linda we were gonna suck that up and try to make City Hall run with the two of us. Several people probably noticed our mishap with the utility billing, so everybody got a beautiful $20 late fee, even though they paid on time. So we apologize for that, but we've got that squared away in the system. So if anybody makes a payment without noticing, they'll have that $20 credit available to them on the next month. If they reach out to us and say, hey, I don't deserve this $20 fee, we agree with you, and we will remove it, and you'll just pay your payment as it should have been. Other than that, we're just working hard to streamline everything we're doing and improve our processes more to make sure we're doing the same thing we're asking everybody else to do, which is suck up all the changes that are coming and the rate increases and the challenges that we're facing and see if we can make it out alive, get on the other side of this thing. So that's all I really have.
Any plans to replace to fly the position of the utilities clerk, or not this time? Any communication with our architectural firm and or our contractor?
I haven't had any, and Linda didn't have any update on that, so I think she's waiting on the SHPO piece.
Supposed to be back together after this Memorial Day now, we should start hearing something.
Okay.
I know Mr. Ralston has been working pretty diligent. What was you here last night till 1 o'clock?
I did it at home, 1:30 this morning until it came in. So it was fun.
Okay, any questions for the clerk?
Nope, that's what we're paying the big bucks for.
Agreed.
All right, Public Works Manager's report.
Okay, you guys have a copy of my report. I just want to add two things real quick. As far as the discussion of the pool earlier, we got 3 applications. That is the very minimum that we could possibly run the pool with, but that leaves no room for somebody to take a day off, go to scout camp, go to volleyball camp, whatever teenagers might want to do. And that's also, we don't know if they can pass certification as well. we have always had somebody not pass. So that's kind of a concern. My recommendation would be for this year to, with only 3 applicants, not to open the pool. And I know 2 of the applicants also applied for the Pioche pool, and I don't know what their plan is there. So that's one concern. And then something else I need to let you guys know about is I got a letter of resignation from one of my employees today. His last day will be the 17th of this month. So with already being down 1 employee, I plan on flying a position so we can replace at least him.
Brackenberry going to the county?
I don't know where he's going.
You said the 17th.
Yeah.
I got one question on the grant. So that one is like I know he does more than that, of course, but kind of like the labor, general labor, and I know he does the trash and all that as
Yeah,
well.
so we've got Public Works 1, and we've got
Okay.
2 Public Works 1 positions and 1 Public Works 2 position. So I would be hiring a Public Works 1.
I got a question. On your park, you've got clean and prep for Memorial Day weekend. The area up here by the flag where that new plaque was dedicated this weekend, did you see how pretty that's cleaned up? I did. Okay. The mayor done that. That whole place, the full length of that street should look the same way.
I understand that's a desire, but I don't know how we get that done with the man hours that we have and the job that you're asking for.
But one of your park employees working on it.
They're allocated pretty heavily right now.
My park employees are working all the time.
Well-
They've got more done this year than they did last year. And I understand that walkway and those planters are an important thing for the city. But we had a $1 million grant that we didn't get any money to maintain it with. And that becomes a problem.
Someone's gonna have to get in the trench then, aren't they?
Yeah. Would you come join me?
I do have it a lot of times.
You can look into beautification's looking for projects too to help along that way too. If it's picking up trash, they talked about it at the last meeting. I was gonna report it in my report.
I talked with some of the beautification about removing the ground cover that collects a lot of the weeds and trash. And that's one of the things we want to move forward with. Again, going to be down another employee. It becomes a difficult task to find the man hours to do everything that needs to be done and keep up with those things as well.
Got, some questions here. We got a Little League tournament. Did you talk to Dane on that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what's the deal on that?
So tomorrow morning, we're going to be putting the mounds back in that were taken out for the softball tournament, the pitcher's mounds. And Dane said if we've done that, we've painted the field, they'll be able to keep up with stuff on their own. We won't have to provide any help to do it.
What are the dates on that?
I believe they want to practice Friday. They want to have the fields available to practice Friday evening. And then Saturday, they're running 6 games on those 2 fields.
This weekend?
This Saturday.
I'm gonna use the other field then.
They're not, just the 2 fields.
Okay.
Are they gonna have to put up a temporary home run fence? No.
We didn't discuss that at all.
We don't use the field out there that's a Little League baseball field, I wonder. I mean, I'm not running this tournament. It just might as well almost demolish what we got out.
I was gonna say, it's been neglected and it's a lot of work to get up and ready to go. And the complaint there when, during the season, is this park's so much better, the concession stands are available. There's more amenities at this park, so nobody wants to go out there anyways.
such a nice park too, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's time to go bye-bye.
So once you get everything ready, they'll continue to maintain it, so you won't have to have your guys or park employees constantly lining the field or anything.
Correct.
Okay, on that last race, just to fill in with here, that dune buggy come off the hill and went down through Jim Henish's, I don't believe it's actually his place, but he's looking after it. Anyway, it tore the fence down. I contacted Regan about that the other day, and he contacted me this afternoon. And he hasn't been able to find anybody to come and do the work to put that fence back up. He said if there was anybody that wants to earn some money and do something, put that thing back up, Sonora will pay for this thing to get it done. And he's tried locally, and he's even tried getting people out of Vegas to come up here, and it's too far for them to come up for a job that small, so.
I'm a major race enthusiast, and I would think maybe he needs to get over there and do it, or there's not gonna be a race no more. Cause I was standing there when it happened, and I mean, I'm all about it. Like, I think we should continue to have the race, but if the promoter can't even come and do that, like, it should already been taken care of, and that's gonna, on their own fault, that's gonna end having that race here, which would be horrible, but
I don't know.
that's something I don't know. He's got a little construction company, maybe he better get over there and get it done, but I would've thought he got an even better fence out of the deal if it was.
Yeah, it really
My promotion
wasn't a
going
lot
on,
of fence,
yeah.
but,
I just hate to see us lose the race over.
yeah.
Have you talked to Bob Rollins?
I'll call the Boy Scouts, I don't know, but I would get over there and get the fence fixed before there's no race.
Anyway, I wanted to keep on.
I would be if he came in and complained next year, I would. Because we're not having it, find somewhere else to go. And I'm a major promoter of that. Can't do people like that.
Yeah, well, I haven't actually talked to Mr. Hennish. I did get a phone call from him and left a message on my machine, which he was definitely upset. So that's why I've been kind of following up on this to see what's happening. So anyway, hopefully this is gonna be taken care of, but I haven't talked to him yet. He was out of town or something for right after that, so I'm about to make contact with him and see.
Last council meeting, Grant and I talked about the lights over across the ballpark in that parking lot, how they're always off at night, or they get broke out, and Dane probably answered this question, and then you had left the meeting, you texted me that they were on, and then they went off or something. So Dane, that was something you guys probably answered. Was that some of the lights we were talking about earlier?
Yes, they were here just before Memorial Day and got those ones taken care of again.
They're fixed.
They're still working, correct?
Yep.
I'm
know
not
what-
here at night.
Do you know what the
When I
issue?
do see them, yes.
Do you know what the issue was? Was it just that, was it the bulb?
So the ones in the parking lot was actually just a switch that turns that circuit off. And I'm not sure if we had done that when we had done some maintenance on those lights, or if somebody else did, but that's all the problem was for that parking lot. But I'm not saying that if they're on and then off again at night, that isn't the problem, but I know they did replace a photo eye that energizes that circuit as well, and often if they're on and off, the photo eye is the problem, so.
And if you're thinking like I'm the light police, it's important that they're on, because when they've been off, if you talk to Grant's park crew, they find all kinds of stuff over there in the morning, like alcohol stuff and broken glass and syringes and, yeah. So with the lights on, it's hopefully gonna be a deterrent.
We never needed the vending machine.
All right, do we have any questions for Grant? Okay, discussion of legal issues. City Attorney, Mr. Katsky.
Couple things. Got word earlier today, or earlier this week actually, that the county is discussing the possibility of dissolving the Regional Transportation Commission, which I think right now it's composed of 2 members of the county commission and 1 member of the city council, right? Reading the statutes, I mean, doing that will give us obviously less voice and we can put this on the next agenda for further discussion, might give the city less voice as to what happens with RTC funds. So maybe we want to discuss that further in the next meeting, discuss how the city wants to approach that issue. The second thing that's been brought to my attention is this map that's been prepared for Mr. Brackenberry regarding a piece of land just, I guess, at the north end of the cove is what I'd call it, and potentially de-annexing a portion, it'd be about 19 acres of land back to the county. And so again, I think that's something that actually, I was reading the ordinance, we'd actually have to, I guess it's called detachment, not de-annexation, detach from the city. It actually has to be published in the newspaper, and then there's some steps to do it there. So we'll put that on for the agenda on June 16th as well. And
You don't want to be a city of Caliente resident, I take it, huh? It's good when you needed it annexed, though.
To get that marijuana sold.
You needed that annexed.
Yeah, so we could sell to a marijuana
Yeah,
company and
don't want to be a part of us.
try to make a bunch of money on it, but.
well, I guess what's happening is there's already a an unannexed portion that he's adding, that it's being added to. And so the question is whether or not, I mean, and I think legally you could actually still have, again, I'd have to talk to Craig and maybe even the county about how you split the taxes on that. Is you could still have a portion of a parcel annexed into the city and another portion that's not, and they just have to figure out how to divide the tax money that way. I didn't see any statutes that don't allow that, I guess. The question is just how difficult would that make it regarding when it comes to tax time, and whether or not, well, I guess if he's building a house on it, there would be pretty good tax base there, a couple $1,000s. So, and that's just a question for the city, whether or not we want to go that route, and what remedy, if any, the individual has to require the detachment from the city. So again, that's something we can put on for the 16th. We can discuss that more. And I mean, the city will have options at that point as to how they want to proceed. And then Mr. Brackenberry at that point will have to decide how he wants to proceed as well. So, and that's all I have.
Okay, any
I
other
got,
questions?
he's the representative for Caliente as well. Yes, this district.
I believe he is.
He's one of the two.
Well, there's only,
Probably just a little concerning, but you don't want to be a
There's
resident.
two representatives for the city of Caliente, one on one side and one on the other.
That's like two districts. It's weird.
Any other questions? Okay, building inspector's report.
Unlike Grant, I gave you a breakdown on the report. There is we want to go through it, that's fine, but there is a couple of things I need to tell you about on there. One of them being Clover Creek Addition. The 27,000 square foot drying building is on site now. They got it shipped sooner than they thought. The slab is not even ready to pour on it yet. They still got electrical, they still got plumbing to put in it. I still have to approve the plans for the inside of the building. I reviewed and approved the plans for the building erection itself. But they're putting 3/4 of that 27,000 feet is gonna be occupied by rooms. I have not saw a plan on it yet. Hopefully I'll have that within, well, they say 2 weeks. Maybe a month I'll have it. They haven't been real speedy with that stuff. But they do have permission to go ahead and do what they can in the building itself. However, they have stopped work on the greenhouse addition because the contractor they have doing the greenhouse addition has other work to do in California. And since they were kind of a standstill on getting plans approved to keep going, they're not gonna start back to work on it for a couple of weeks. So we're just sitting there with it, waiting for plans. And that's about it. Franklin brought up the one other thing I had on the Brackenberry property. And if you guys want to look at that handout that I gave you, and if you have any questions, let me know now or call me and we'll go over it. But it's pretty straightforward, except that according to Sunrise Engineering, it has to be de-annexed. And they left that up to Franklin's decision. So we're gonna talk about it on the next meeting. Well, that's something that you as a council need to fill in whether we want to de-annex it or not. We don't have to. Because he has never, Brackenberry I'm talking about, has never really petitioned the city to de-annex. This is a boundary line adjustment that they want to do now. But it has to be legal. Am I right, Franklin? It has to be de-annexed to be legal.
Ask the question again.
The boundary line adjustment is not adequate. It has to be a de-annexation.
No, that's what I talked about. I don't think it has to necessarily, but we can talk about it on 16th.
Yeah. Well, Sunrise then left it up to your discretion as far as the legality of it is concerned. So our attorney says that we don't have to, then we can just, we have to put it out for, to the public anyway. It has to be advertised.
Maybe if we're gonna build them a bunch of roads and do what we did last time, then maybe it'd be worth de-annexing them too. Just saying, you got
Yeah.
quite a good road in there. It's way better than mine, I know that. Got a pretty good
So
deal.
we'll get it on.
I do got a question for you. The mechanic shop over here, we're rolling back into a junkyard again. I seen a porta potty. Did they get unred tagged without a bathroom?
Well, I have, Bert Cox's word was that they would start it before the end of the month. Well, the end of the month's already passed. And,
More cars are showing
And-
up.
Sparky says if Bert doesn't want to do it, he will do it. There's been a permit pulled on that 2 years ago or 3. So the money's there to do it. They can't use that as an excuse. Legally, I could let them, make them pay it again, but I don't intend to do that unless you guys tell me to. But, you know, we can use that as a little lever if we have to.
Turning into the same.
Yeah.
They did move the porta potty to the other side, but even that building seems like,
Yeah, well,
you know, there's
they-
no fencing around that building. It's a dangerous building. It should probably be,
Well,
I don't know. I could look into it, but I'll do some research.
the original plan was they were gonna remodel that old building, and those were gonna be the bathrooms for both buildings, which is okay, that's legal. They can do that. But first of all, they gotta get the building back in shape in order to put the bathrooms in it.
I just got, again, residents that are,
Yeah.
it's already turning into
Well, I have not had a complaint about where it's at now, unless you have.
burbles.
Well, Bert told me he was gonna have it done. But I know he's also, like everybody else, snowed under.
I need to start rolling like that. I like this county and that kind of stuff. It's intriguing now. I'm intrigued.
Okay, any other questions for our building inspector?
Outlaw.
Okay, discussion of issues related to public safety. Fire chief.
I see there was a flyer out with power bills today, which is a good thing about keeping the yards clean for fire hazard. But maybe, when the one that comes out in July, we can put on there, no burning. So at least through September, so. Maybe we throw another flyer in there.
Any questions for Fire Chief?
You want, George, would you mind getting me some language that you'd like to have on there, and we can make sure we get it out? Thank you.
Okay. Parks and Beautification Committee, Mr. Fitzsimons.
All right, next meeting's gonna be the 14th of June. That's when they're gonna finalize the Tacos and Ritas event on July 4th. I believe it's 3 to 7 PM on July 4th at the Rose Park. Granted, getting, pending approval of the temporary liquor license, of course. We had some local banners, some local kids. One of them's Councilman Laveria's son. We got those banners up for our locals, a couple local kids that are serving in the military. Grant's crew helped with that. And the flags are put up, and against better judgment, I told them we could take them down. They want to leave them up till Flag Day, which is June 14th. It's a lot of wear and tear on our flags. I don't want them getting in anybody's way, so they might be going away in a couple days and back on the 14th for Flag Day. Other than that, had a lot of compliments on the Rose Park. I spent a lot of time in the Rose Park this last weekend, and I even saw Ricky cleaning bathrooms, and nobody came up to me and said one bathroom was out of toilet paper, and he was doing trashes, so appreciate that. I think the Rose Park looked really great for all the festivities down there. I didn't spend a lot of time at Dixon Park. I guess that's all I have.
Questions for Sean? Okay, Community Development. Councilman Rao.
Didn't have a planning commission meeting this week. So I have nothing to report except what I reported last time, that the Lincoln County Regional Development will meet here in this meeting, in this room, for a workshop on the 11th of July at 1 o'clock. And then their regular meeting will be that same day at 4:30.
Any questions for Tommy? Okay, Tourism, Boxcar Museum, Councilman Laveri.
One last thing on my report. Craig and I worked together. I'm gonna be attending the League of Cities thing in Fallon next week. So I will try to represent you with honor and dignity, and
At the team building activity, you just go kill it for us.
yes, so
By yourself.
I will have a full report on the June 16th meeting, but I'll be heading to Fallon next week, so.
You're the only one going?
You're the only one.
Okay, so anyway, that's not a part of my report, but I was just letting the other council know that we'll be represented there. Sorry, Joe.
No, you're fine. Tourism, I talked to Boxcar today and, nothing really to report other than they're just good business putting it together still. But no issues or no needs really either. And then tomorrow, room tax meeting and the county, I have talked to Kathy Cook and it is a big number, but I'm trying to get, rodeo clowns and some live bands and bigger entertainment there, so that's sure whatever they get, they'll be happy with. And that's it, the room tax rate in a couple weeks, I guess.
Hammer that
Maybe
out.
Susan, we can set another meeting and at least discuss it.
Any questions for Joe? Okay, Public Utilities, Mr. Hunter.
Nothing major to report.
Any questions for Jamin?
Nothing for Jamie.
Okay, I don't have a lot to report. I talked a couple little things on the tournament and the fence for Mr. Hennish. The swimming pool thing is something we need to decide on what we're gonna do. There's some options we can look at. I'd like to, if we don't do a pool, I'd like to look at doing maybe some new restrooms in our Rose Park down here. Improving some of that, and maybe even see what we can do about putting a splash pad in down there, which could be self-regulated, where the kids could be entertained there, as well as
What location was that?
at the Rose Park. Rose Park needs some new restrooms. We put new restrooms and a splash pad in at one spot, move that out of the middle of the park. Anyway, that would be something we'd have to discuss and decide on, see what it was cost and,
Who's gonna maintain it?
well, that's the stuff that, the splash pad doesn't take much maintaining.
Franklin volunteered.
It's all maintained by the people that come there and use it. It's got a push button, you push it on and it's on, it comes on and runs for 10 minutes and goes back off. You're still there, you push the button again. That way nobody has to be there and be with them.
And Mayor Rao and I've discussed previously that I've applied for some grants, but the problem is the deadline was, like, it takes a year to look at some of these grants that we can get for the future of operating the pool cost and installing the splash pad. So I have applied for a couple of those, and they usually don't tell you if you get them until they tell you about September 15th is when they tell you to get them for the next year. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
I know Alamo has put in a splash pad over there. I'd like to make contact with them and see how that's going and what they paid for it, how that's working out for them. We need to do some investigating before we just go do something, but we do need some restrooms over there, so.
Something Tommy said, I don't know, Grant, if this would be us, you, or how we do it, but like maybe promoting the cleanup day or something like that to take care of some of those issues. 'Cause at some point, you also as a citizen, and not everybody is capable or able to do that, but a lot of us are, and at some point, you gotta kind of take care of your own. Like my son's sign over there, it's in the trees, you can't see it. I might have done the wrong thing, but I went over there and trimmed the tree and I'm gonna hit the next two, cause nothing again, I mean, it's just where they put it, no problem, but the tree needed to be trimmed, and so I'm just taking it upon myself to, I was gonna do a couple of the other ones that are in there, but might get in trouble too, I don't know. But there used to be days like that,
Yeah,
just a little community cleanup day or something, you know? I don't know.
that might be something the beautification committee might want to put together.
We've talked about it.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for me? Okay, public comment. Do we have any public comment?
You want me up here?
Yep.
I am not complaining this time.
For the record.
My name is Roseanne Mangum. I'm just here, homecoming, I was on the homecoming committee, and we almost had a crimp put in the activities with the ball tournament. Because I guess, well, I know Glassburn, he threw it away. And that could have really hurt homecoming, but I want you to know that whoever worked with the gentleman, I think it was you, Craig, no, that put on the tournament, did an amazing job. That was one of the best tournaments we have had in a lot of years.
That was all him. I can't take any credit for that. He did.
Well, I know he did it, but you worked with him.
Well, thank you.
And I appreciate that because it pulled it out. I mean, it would have hurt homecoming and would have dealt with it. But I just want to thank you guys for allowing the gentleman to come in. I guess he was an umpire years and years ago that used to come in here and ump the games. I can't remember his name, but he did a
Joey.
fantastic job.
Joey, you did a good job.
So, anyway, I want to thank you for allowing him and working with him and allowing him to come in and make homecoming a better homecoming.
Thank you.
For your service on the committee, Roseanne.
Pardon?
Thank you for your service on the committee.
I will add to that, just for the city council to consider, that he did reach out to me and ask if it was the council's flavor going forward, he would like to start promoting that for next year. Thinks he can build it up bigger and better next time and get more vendors here and make it a better deal. But he's kind of waiting to hear from you if you want him to do that.
This is serious too, I mean, is it gonna be a room tax issue? Maybe either this guy might just move forward without ever even.
He'll work with us.
Need room tax money, you think?
Yeah, one of the questions that I asked him about with the room tax funds was how, how that worked. I have a pretty good understanding of how that was working. I'm ultimately, and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like a lot of the donation that we contributed was utilized to help beef up what was the prizes that were given out to make the tournament special, a little bit different than maybe other places that they go. A lot of the teams knew that it was a good place to come and it was worth their time. So whether we need to contribute that much in the future or not, we probably wouldn't have to. That's kind of what it was used for, was to,
No, and that's what I was saying, I didn't know if maybe just promoting it bigger and bigger where it's like.
right, I don't know that
really
we would,
need
I
that
don't,
ask, you know, I was just curious.
yeah, I don't know that we would have to.
Did we pay him?
Him personally?
Like the 1,000, like, because typically, like, we pay Chris 1,000.
Yeah, so what,
This guy,
Well, what
same package, I guess. is
we
what I'm
we
asking.
gave him a package of 5,000 is what we do.
The same guy.
Yeah,
Or
just
the
the
new
same
guy.
as what Chris
Okay.
had. And then, he explained where all that money goes, and what he does. I don't know that he took any money at all, but really the way he talked, he's,
yeah, I think what he was gonna do, and he did say he would report back to us, so I presume he's gonna get back to us on how that money was utilized. But ultimately, long story short, the $5,000 that we donated, ultimately, that was our concern or consideration primarily, was that being utilized as it was intended. That amount of money was kind of poured into the tournament, and then the teams paid in, and then whatever was kind of left over at the end, they paid all their expenses, and he was gonna get paid out of that. How much he got, I don't know. But we did have an accounting of the $5,000 that we contributed. We got all of that back from Chris and worked through passing that on to Joey to run the tournament. So,
I know this group, when they were setting up their trailers around the park, I went around and talked to them and had them, because I did check to make sure that they had filled up the deal. I never even thought about the other RV park out there, but anyway, those guys, I never had any argument with them. They had, in fact, a lot of them had their stuff all set up, slide out, set out, everything, and they moved everything and went over there. I know when they got through, everything looked to me like they'd cleaned up everything, so I was pretty impressed with how they had left things. But Susan's right, we have a lot of extra garbage we had to take care of. I think we need to revamp our, what do you call it, that permit that we put out for these guys. And if they're gonna have this tournament thing, we maybe put up a sign over there, like she says, gosh, you wanna spend the night here, you're gonna cost you $20 after the RV parks are full.
Well, and the big thing, like, you don't wanna run people out either. And that's why I was kinda saying, I think it's like, just the promoter to be like,
Yep.
Cause like,
Promoter does it, then you ask the promoter for the check.
the ground shakers, the last time, that was my problem, and I'm big on them too. But it was like, they were promoting to stay somewhere else, and it's like,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Moving right along. All right, any other public comment? If not, we'll move on, schedule our next meeting.
yep, so our next meeting is gonna be June 16th, 6 PM. I noted a few items. I've been typing as I go, so I don't have them right in front of me, but there's a few items that we'll have on that next agenda. I've already kind of got it rolling, so there will be a number of items for that meeting.
I've already emailed him my items.
You have? What a guy.
Okay. Then, if we have nothing else, I adjourn the meeting.